She asked the CEO to play her boyfriend to escape her ex. His response stunned everyone. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to the main character. She did not plan for this moment. Not today. Not here. The restaurant was loud in the soft way expensive places usually are. Low music, polite laughter, glasses clinking. The kind of place where people pretended nothing could go wrong. She was halfway through standing up when she felt it. That familiar tightening in her chest. The kind that only came with one name. Her ex. He was there. Close enough that she could hear his voice. Confident. Casual. As if he had every right to be. She froze. 2 years ago, she had walked away from him with nothing but a suitcase and her pride. He had taken the apartment, the car, the story. And he had left her with the one thing she could not explain to anyone. Fear that he would show up again and remind her of who she used to be. She glanced around, searching for an exit, but he had already seen her. Still running? He said, his smile sharp and practiced. Her heart pounded. People were watching. Colleagues, clients, strangers who did not know the history, only the tension hanging in the air. That was when she saw him, the man standing a few feet away, speaking calmly with the restaurant manager. Tall, composed, impossibly out of place and completely in control. The CEO everyone in the room recognized, even if they pretended not to stare. She had met him once, briefly, professionally. He had been polite, distant, untouchable. And in that split second, with her past stepping closer and her options disappearing, she did the unthinkable. She turned to him. "Can you help me?" she whispered. He looked at her, surprised but not confused. "My ex," she said quickly, her voice low. "I just need you to pretend, just for a moment, please." She expected him to say no, to step back, to protect his reputation. Instead, he studied her face, then glanced at the man approaching them. His expression changed, not to anger, but to something steadier, colder. He did not ask questions. He simply stepped closer and placed his hand on the small of her back. "Everything okay?" he said, loud enough for others to hear. Her ex stopped short. The CEO turned fully toward him now, calm and unhurried. "You must be mistaken," he said. "She is with me." The room went quiet in that subtle way it does when something important is happening. She felt his hand remain where it was, firm and deliberate. This was not acting. This was not half-hearted. This was protection. Her ex laughed, but there was uncertainty behind it. "You did not mention a boyfriend." The CEO did not raise his voice. He did not smile. "I did not need to," he replied. And in that moment, she realized she had asked for a favor. But what he was giving her was something else entirely. She did not breathe again until her ex finally walked away. Only then did she realize how close the CEO was standing. Too close for comfort. Close enough that she could feel the warmth of his hand through the thin fabric of her dress. She took a small step back, embarrassed, her heart still racing. "I am sorry," she said quickly. "I did not think you would actually do it." He looked down at her, his expression calm, unreadable. "You needed help," he said. "I helped." That was it. No lecture, no demand for explanation, just a statement of fact. They stood there for a moment, surrounded by the low hum of the restaurant returning to normal. Conversations resumed, glasses clinked again, but for her, nothing felt normal. "I can explain," she added, unsure why she felt the need to. "He does not usually show up like that. I just panicked." "You do not owe me anything," he replied. "But if he comes back, you will not be alone." That was when it hit her. He was not pretending anymore. Not really. She nodded, swallowing hard. "Thank you." They took their seats, but the space between them felt different now. Charged. Fragile. For the rest of the evening, she kept catching people looking at them. Curious glances. Quiet assumptions. She wondered what stories were already forming in their heads. She tried to focus on her plate, but her thoughts drifted backward. 2 years earlier, she had been someone else. Engaged. Certain. Willing to make herself smaller to keep someone else comfortable. When the betrayal came, it had not been loud. It had been quiet and devastating. She had left before he could take anything else from her. Tonight was supposed to be simple. A work dinner, a chance to network, a reminder that she had rebuilt her life piece by piece. She had not expected her past to walk through the door. She glanced at the CEO again. He was listening to someone nearby, polite but distant. This was his world. Power. Control. A man who did not need to fake anything. Why had he stepped in for her? As if sensing her thoughts, he turned to her. "If this arrangement is going to continue," he said evenly, "we should be clear." She blinked. "Continue?" "For the rest of the night," he clarified. "Your ex believes we are together. If he doubts it, he will return." Her shoulders tensed. "I do not want to cause trouble for you." "You are not," he said. "But we need rules." Rules. The word grounded her. "Nothing changes after tonight," she said quickly. "No expectations, no complications." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Agreed. This stays here." She let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. They sat in silence for a few seconds, an unspoken contract settling between them. Temporary, controlled, safe. Then, without warning, her ex reappeared at the edge of their table. "I forgot something," he said, his eyes flicking between them. The CEO did not hesitate. He reached for her hand again, this time with intention. His grip was steady, reassuring. "Is there a problem?" he asked. Her ex smiled tightly. "No, just surprised." "So was I," the CEO replied. "But some things work better than expected." She felt her pulse jump at the words. Her ex muttered something under his breath and turned away for good. When he was gone, she gently pulled her hand back, her fingers tingling. "You did not have to say that," she said softly. "I know," the CEO answered. And that was the moment she understood. This was no longer just about escaping her past. Something else had begun. They did not speak again until the server returned to clear the table. Only then did the CEO lean back slightly in his chair, his posture relaxing just enough to signal a shift. The performance was over. Or at least, that was what it was supposed to be. "We should be precise," he said calmly. "If we are doing this, even temporarily." She looked up at him. "Doing what, exactly?" "Playing a role," he answered. "People do not question confidence. They question inconsistency." Her lips pressed together. He was right, and she did not like how easily he had stepped into control. Still, she nodded. "Okay," she said, "just for tonight." "Just for tonight," he repeated. "That is rule number 1. She waited, sensing there would be more. "Rule number 2, he continued. "We do not oversell it. No dramatic gestures. No stories about the future. We keep it simple and believable." She almost smiled. "You sound like you have done this before." He shook his head. "I have not, but I have watched people fail at it." He paused, just long enough for the silence to feel intentional. "And because once you step in," he added quietly, "you do not always get to control how it ends." That made her laugh, a quiet, surprised sound she had not expected from herself. It eased something between them. "And rule number 3?" she asked. He paused for a fraction of a second. "We do not cross lines that make this complicated." Her expression softened, serious now. "Agreed." For the first time since her ex had appeared, she felt steady again. They finished dinner with polite conversation. Work, neutral topics, safe ground. But the longer they sat together, the more natural it began to feel. When someone stopped by the table to greet the CEO, he introduced her without hesitation. "This is my girlfriend," he said simply. No explanation, no emphasis. Each time he said it, something inside her shifted. When they stood to leave, he did not rush ahead. He matched her pace as they walked toward the exit, the city lights visible through the glass doors. Outside, the air was cool, the kind that cleared her head. "You did not have to walk me out," she said. "I wanted to," he replied. They stopped near the curb. Cars passed. The night moved on around them, unaware of the quiet moment forming. "This ends here," she said, reminding herself as much as him. "I mean it." "I know," he said. "You should not owe anyone safety." The words stayed with her. A few feet away, her ex stood near the valet, pretending to scroll on his phone. Watching. The CEO noticed immediately. Without asking, he stepped closer again, this time not touching her, just close enough to be unmistakable. His presence alone changed the dynamic. Her ex glanced up, met his eyes, and looked away. It was over. When her ride arrived, she turned to face the CEO fully. "Thank you," she said, "for setting boundaries, for all of it." He nodded. "Take care of yourself." She hesitated, then added, "I did not expect you to care." "I did not expect to," he replied honestly. She got into the car and watched him in the side mirror as they pulled away. He stood exactly where she had left him, composed, distant again. But something about his stillness felt different now. That night, long after the city lights faded outside her window, she replayed everything. The rules, the way he had spoken, the way he had chosen to stand between her and the past without being asked twice. It had started as a lie. But lies, she was beginning to learn, had consequences, and sometimes they opened doors neither person meant to walk through. The next morning she told herself it was over. Last night had been an exception, a strange collision of timing and old wounds. She showered, dressed, and repeated the rules in her head like a quiet promise. Nothing changes after tonight. No expectations, no complications. By noon, her phone vibrated. A single message: "I will need you with me tonight." No greeting, no explanation. Her stomach tightened. She stared at the screen, then typed back, "I thought we agreed it ended." A pause. Then another message appeared. "Your ex will be there. Investors. Press. If he sees you alone, he will try again." She leaned back in her chair, exhaling slowly. She had not told him where she would be. She had not told him about the event. And yet, he already knew. "What do you need me to do?" she finally asked. "Nothing you are not comfortable with," he replied. "Just be present." She arrived at the venue just before sunset. The building rose clean and modern against the sky, glass reflecting the city like a mirror. This was not a place for improvisation. Every movement here was watched. He was waiting near the entrance. "You came," he said. "I said just for tonight," she reminded him. "Just for tonight," he agreed. Inside, the world shifted. People greeted him with familiarity and respect. Some nodded at her. Others smiled with curiosity. She felt their eyes measuring her place beside him. He did not rush her. He walked at her pace. When someone approached too quickly, he angled his body just enough to create space without making a scene. It was subtle, controlled, protective in a way that felt practiced, even if he had said it was not. "This is impressive," she said quietly, as they paused near the edge of the room. "It is a room," he replied. "What matters is who you let inside it." She glanced at him, surprised by the honesty. Throughout the evening he stayed consistent. He introduced her the same way every time. No embellishment, no performance. "This is my girlfriend." Each repetition landed differently. Once, someone asked how long they had been together. She froze, but he answered smoothly. "Long enough to know what matters." She did not contradict him. At one point, she excused herself to step outside for air. When she returned, her ex was there, leaning casually against a high table, waiting. "You move fast," he said, his tone sharp. Before she could respond, the CEO stepped between them. "I would be careful," he said calmly. "You are speaking to someone who does not belong to you." Her ex scoffed. "This is temporary. We both know that." The CEO did not raise his voice. "So was your chance." The words were simple, final. Her ex walked away, humiliated without being shouted down. Later, as the night thinned and the crowd dispersed, she stood beside the CEO near the windows overlooking the city. "You did not have to do all that," she said. "I chose to," he replied. "Why?" He looked at her, not evasive, not guarded. Because pretending should never feel like fear. Something shifted then, not dramatically, quietly. As they parted ways at the end of the night, she realized something unsettling. The role she had asked him to play was no longer the most convincing part. The way he had treated her was. By the time the event ended, she was exhausted in a way sleep would not fix. It was not physical. It was the weight of awareness, of being seen, of realizing how easily a boundary could move when someone else stood firm beside you. They rode the elevator down together in silence. The hum of the cables filled the space between them. No audience, no performance. "You handled that well," she said finally. "So did you," he replied. The doors opened to the empty lobby. Outside, the city was quieter now, late enough that ambition gave way to routine. A few cars passed. A security guard nodded as they walked out. "This is where it ends," she said again, more softly this time. He stopped beside her. "You keep saying that." "Because it needs to," she answered. "I do not want to confuse gratitude with something else." He considered her words. "That is fair." For a moment, neither moved. Then he spoke, carefully. "You are not confusing anything. You are protecting yourself. There is a difference." She looked at him, caught off guard. Most men she had known took offense at boundaries. He seemed to respect them. "I spent a long time rebuilding," she said, quietly, without help. "I can see that," he said. "You carry it like armor." She smiled faintly. "And you carry control like it is second nature." He did not deny it. "Control keeps things predictable. And predictable feels safe," she finished. "Yes." The word hung between them. A car pulled up. Her ride. She hesitated before opening the door. "Tonight felt real," she admitted. "That is what scares me." "It felt real because it was honest," he said, "not because it was permanent." She nodded, grateful for the distinction. As she drove home, her phone buzzed again. "I hope you arrive safely," his message read. She stared at it longer than she meant to, then typed back, "I did. Thank you." The next few days were quiet, too quiet. She returned to work, meetings, emails, deadlines, and yet, everywhere she went, she felt the absence of his presence, like a missing note in a familiar song. She told herself it was relief. Then the invitation arrived. A formal dinner, board members, press, a request for her attendance by name. She read it twice. When she called him, he answered immediately. "I thought we agreed," she began. "We did," he said. "This is not an agreement. It is a choice." "My ex will be there," she said. "I know. And you still want me to come?" "I want you to decide," he replied. "Not out of fear, not out of obligation." She closed her eyes. This was different. No rules, no script. "I will be honest," she said. "If I come, I cannot keep pretending nothing is changing." There was a pause on the line, a real one. "Then do not pretend," he said quietly. That night, standing in front of her mirror, she realized something she had avoided naming. The relationship had started as a shield, but shields were not meant to be held forever. And when she stepped into the room beside him again, she understood that the next test would not be public. It would be between them. The dinner was smaller than the last event, but heavier in its own way. No crowd to hide behind. No distance created by noise. Just a long table, soft lighting, and conversations that lingered longer than they needed to. She sat beside him, not across. A deliberate choice. One she noticed the moment she made it. No one questioned her place there. Throughout the evening, the CEO spoke less than usual. He listened. He watched. When someone addressed her directly, he did not answer for her. He let her speak. When someone tried to dismiss her, he corrected them without raising his voice. It was not dramatic. It was respectful. When the last plates were cleared and the room slowly emptied, he asked quietly, "Would you like to step outside for a moment?" She nodded. They walked onto a private terrace overlooking the city. The air was cool, steady. The noise from inside faded into a distant murmur. She leaned against the railing, exhaling. "You do not need to do this," she said. "You do not need to keep showing up." "I am not doing it out of obligation," he replied. "Then why?" she asked, turning to face him fully. He did not answer immediately. That alone told her this was different. "Because control only works until it does not," he said finally. "And because I recognize what it looks like when someone has spent too long being careful." Her chest tightened. "You do not know me well enough to say that." "I know enough," he replied. "You flinch before you smile. You prepare for exits. You apologize before you are asked." She looked away. "That is not weakness," he continued. "That is someone who learned to survive." The honesty in his voice unsettled her more than any grand declaration could have. "I did not ask you to see me," she said softly. "I asked you to pretend." "I know," he said, but pretending does not explain why you stayed. She met his gaze again. This time, she did not look away. You make me feel safe, she admitted, and that scares me. He nodded once, accepting it. It should. Safety invites choice, and choice carries risk. They stood there, the city breathing around them. I am not asking you for anything, he said. No promises, no roles, no future. Then what are you asking? She asked. For honesty, he replied. Between us, even if it complicates things. She laughed quietly. It already has. Yes, he agreed, but not in a way that diminishes you. She thought of her ex, of how every relationship had felt like negotiation, like shrinking to be manageable. This felt nothing like that. Later that night, as they walked toward the exit, she stopped. I need to be clear, she said. If this becomes real, it cannot be hidden, and it cannot be used. He turned to her, serious. I would never ask you to disappear. And if my past makes things inconvenient, she asked, then we handle it, he said. Together or not at all. The word lingered. Together. As she stepped into the night, she realized the truth she had been avoiding. The hardest part was not admitting her feelings. It was accepting that someone could meet her without trying to own her. And for the first time in a long time, she did not retreat from that possibility. The fallout did not come loudly. It came efficiently. 2 days later, she learned about it from a meeting invite that disappeared from her calendar without explanation. A project she had been leading for months was reassigned. No discussion, no warning. When she asked her supervisor, the answer was careful, polite, incomplete. There are concerns, he said, about perception. She knew immediately whose voice was behind the word. Her ex had always been good at this. Never direct, never obvious. He did not confront, he repositioned. That afternoon, her phone rang. I heard congratulations are in order, her ex said, his tone smooth. You move quickly. She felt the old anger rise, sharp and familiar. What do you want? To help, he replied. You are tied to a powerful man now. People talk. Boards notice. She closed her eyes. Say what you are really saying. I'm saying this arrangement of yours looks strategic, he continued. Boards do not care about feelings. They care about risk. He paused, then added, almost kindly, you were never built for this world. I am trying to keep it from breaking you. And strategies invite scrutiny. Before she could respond, he ended the call. By evening, the story had already begun to circulate. Not accusations, suggestions, whispers that she had leveraged a relationship, that she was not qualified, only connected, that what began as a favor had become a calculated move. She did not tell the CEO immediately, not because she did not trust him, but because she needed to understand her own reaction first. Old instincts told her to retreat, to disappear before she could be taken apart piece by piece. When she finally met him, it was not at an event or a restaurant. It was at his office, quiet, private. I should step back, she said before he could speak. This is becoming a liability. He studied her, his expression tightening. To whom? To you, she replied, and to myself. He did not interrupt. My past is being used against me, she continued, and I will not let it become your problem. You already are my problem, he said calmly, because you are a person, not a headline. She shook her head. You do not understand. This is how it starts. People decide who you are before you get to speak. He stood then, slowly, not in anger, in decision. Then we speak, he said. No, she said quickly. That is exactly what he wants. A reaction, a spectacle. She took a breath. I am walking away, publicly, cleanly. His jaw tightened. You are choosing fear. I am choosing control, she replied. I need to know I can leave without being chased. They stood in silence, the distance between them heavier than it had ever been. If you do this, he said, do not do it for him. I am doing it for me, she answered. The next morning, the announcement went out. She was no longer attending events with him. No statements, no denials, just absence. The response was immediate. People assumed what they always did, that the story had ended because it was never real to begin with. Her ex wasted no time. He cornered her at a public venue days later, his smile thin. "That was wise," he said. "You avoided embarrassment." She looked at him, steady now. "You confuse silence with surrender." He laughed. "You left. That is what matters." What he did not see was the cost. She returned home that night and sat alone in the quiet. No messages, no reassurances. She had cut the line herself. For the first time since this had begun, she felt the weight of her choice. She had walked away from the one thing that had not asked her to be smaller. And she did not know if it was too late to admit that she had done it out of fear, not strength. She found out the same way everyone else did. Not through a call, not through a warning, through a headline. The CEO's company had scheduled a press briefing, public, live-streamed, mandatory attendance for board members and senior staff, the kind of event designed to settle rumors, not create them. Her name was not mentioned in the announcement. That was what made her uneasy. She watched from her apartment, sitting on the edge of the couch, hands folded tightly in her lap. The screen showed the familiar conference room, neutral backdrop, company logo, reporters murmuring softly. Then he stepped up to the podium. He looked the same, composed, controlled, but there was something in his posture she had never seen before, a readiness that did not come from preparation, but from resolve. He did not open with earnings or strategy. "I am here to address a situation that should not have required this room," he said evenly. "But silence has been mistaken for truth." The room stilled. "Recent speculation has suggested that someone I care about benefited from proximity to me," he continued. "That implication is false, and it ends today." A murmur moved through the room. One board member leaned forward, voice low but audible. "This decision will have consequences." "I am aware," he replied without hesitation. Her breath caught. "I invited her into my life, not the other way around," he said. Any suggestion that her presence was strategic, transactional, or self-serving reflects a misunderstanding of both her integrity and my judgment. Reporters shifted. Pens moved faster. He did not stop. "I will not allow anyone to rewrite her history to serve their narrative," he said. "And I will not distance myself from someone simply because it makes others uncomfortable." There it was. Not defense, not denial. Choice. At that moment, her phone buzzed. One message. "I am not asking you to come back. I am telling the truth." Tears blurred the screen. At the venue, the atmosphere changed quickly. Questions came fast, aggressive, probing. He answered none of them. "This briefing is over," he said. "My position is clear." He stepped away from the podium without waiting for permission. Across town, she stood up so abruptly that the couch shifted beneath her. Fear, relief, and something sharper twisted together in her chest. He had done exactly what she had tried to prevent. He had made it impossible for her to hide. Her ex called less than an hour later. "You forced his hand," he snapped. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" She listened, calm now. "I did not force anything." "You embarrassed me," he said. "You embarrassed yourself." She smiled, slow and steady. "No, I chose myself." She ended the call before he could respond. That evening she went where she knew he would be. Not to make a statement, not to explain, to choose. He was alone in his office, jacket off, sleeves rolled up. He looked up when she entered, surprise flickering briefly across his face. "You did not have to come," he said. "I know," she replied. "I wanted to." They stood there, the weight of everything unsaid pressing in. "You did not do that for leverage," she said. "You did it knowing I might still walk away." "Yes," he answered. "Because if you stay, it should be because you want to, not because I made it easier." She stepped closer. "I walked away because I was afraid," she said. "Not because you were wrong." He waited. Let her finish. "I am not asking for protection," she continued. "I am asking for honesty, and space to stand beside you without disappearing into you." He nodded once. "That is the only way I would accept it." She reached for his hand, this time without a role to justify it. "Then let us stop pretending," she said, not loudly, not bravely, just honestly. He did not pull her closer. He did not claim anything. He simply held her hand. And for the first time since this began, there was nothing fake left to resolve. The story did not end with applause or headlines. It ended quietly. Weeks passed. The noise faded the way it always did when people realized there was nothing left to speculate about. No scandal, no collapse. Just two people who had refused to explain themselves beyond what was necessary. She returned fully to her work, not hidden, not shielded. Her projects were restored. Her voice was heard again, this time without anyone questioning why she belonged in the room. He did not change his public life to accommodate her. He made space instead. They were seen together sometimes. Other times, they were not. There were no staged appearances, no statements, only consistency. One evening, after a long day that had nothing to do with boardrooms or press, they sat together on the balcony of his apartment. The city stretched below them, alive but distant. "You know," she said, breaking the comfortable silence, "this started because I was trying to run." He nodded. "And I agreed because I thought it would be simple." She smiled. "It was never simple." "No," he said, "but it was honest." She leaned back in her chair, watching the lights blink on one by one. "I used to believe strength meant leaving before someone could take something from me." "And now?" he asked. "And now I think strength is staying when you are allowed to leave," she answered. He did not argue. He had learned when not to. Later that night, as they prepared to go inside, he stopped her. "There is something I want to ask you," he said. She turned, her expression open but cautious, not guarded, just aware. "I am not offering protection," he continued, "and I am not asking you to give anything up." She waited. "I am asking if you want to build something slowly," he said, "with room for both of us to remain ourselves." She felt the weight of the question, not heavy but real. "Yes," she said, "but only if we promise not to confuse presence with possession." He smiled, a rare, unguarded expression. "Agreed." Months later, they attended another event together. Different room, different energy. This time, when someone asked who she was, she answered for herself. And when her ex appeared across the room, smaller than he remembered himself to be, she did not flinch. He approached, hesitant now. "You seem different," he said. She met his eyes without anger. "I am." He looked past her, perhaps expecting intervention. None came. She did not need it anymore. As the evening ended, she and the CEO walked out side by side. No hands held, no statements made, just shared direction. At the curb, she paused. "Do you ever regret agreeing to pretend?" He thought for a moment. "No," he said. "It taught me the difference between control and care." She nodded. "And it taught me the difference between hiding and choosing." They got into the car together, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. What began as a role had become a partnership. What started as escape had turned into clarity. And the most unexpected part was this. The lie had not changed their lives. The truth they allowed afterward did. They did not know if this would last, but for the first time, they were choosing without fear.